think it helps them because it forces, like, the long time ago, one of the reasons that Druid was, like, it just makes the Druid have something on board early on, which is kind of important. Which can be important, like if you have let's say you have a silence against Twilight Trick and you don't really have anything to kill it with, maybe you have an Aspirant on field and you play the silence, and you still get to keep the 2/4, and with that you can threaten your opponent with the Force Nature Savager relatively early. Just keep on trading and not really doing anything to the face, and then you just burst him down. Just more minions allow you to do that.
Yeah.
In new decks, I think, than old decks.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question because it's very obvious that the aspirants are really a really great addition against aggressive decks, but against the more like control-y decks, like how much better is it really? Like it's even arguable that it's worse against Control Warrior because Fire War Axe is like one of the things that Control Warrior can mulligan for, and it really deals well with the aspirants. Do you have any opinion on that, Amsan?
I actually think they differ. It's just very, very often against Control Warriors, you're just left with the just minion not being able to combo. Like often you're forced to use your Shade of Noxdramas trading. Instead of just waiting and then combo an opponent down, which would be ideal, but you couldn't do that. I think it just makes the match a little bit more fluent and smooth. Just there are just chunks of turns that you're not doing anything. You're just hero power skipping just because you don't want to use Force Nature Savager combo. You don't have Ancient Lore. But nowadays, people actually run Azure Drakes, and you just have more things to play, I think, and have more things on board so that you can threaten Force Nature Savager. So the Warriors are forced to play around that.
Yeah, indeed, it's going to be a Demon Handlock. We've been seeing more of a trend towards the Demon variation of Handlock. And I think it's because a player by the name of Amnesia SC has been really innovating it, especially on the North American scene, and it's been transitioning into other scenes as well. I know Surrender is one of those players, along with Kranich, who really keeps in touch with the Western scene. But really interesting. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
It's gonna be Zoo. Another thing is that Zoo is way more popular on the Asian servers than than in the Western scene.
Wasn't so sure, but it's all right. It is a Zoo. Actually, one with a Void Tear version, Egg and Void Tear, against even patrons. Sometimes you're just able to burst your opponent down before, and patrons really don't have a good way to deal with Nirbians and buffed up Void Tears.
Exactly, I think
especially with a power overwhelming.
Void Terror is to me it seems like the key
card.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's just really hard for patrons to deal with, especially early on. And if you get that key power overwhelming egg plus Void Terror combo, if they don't have the execute, it's almost just game over because it's too early for them to deal with that kind of board.
Yep, you're already down to somewhere between 12 to 18 health just dealing with them.
Oh, there we have
Brandon's starting hand, though.
That's pretty interesting.
Ooh, Flame Imp just a turn too late. That would be great if you start with a Flame Imp and then trade into, and then you play the Egg. However, that won't be the case here. We'll just force to play Flame Imp and possibly coin out the Egg as well. You don't possibly just want the Egg to die to Keeper.
Exactly.
And don't do anything. That'll be terrible turn.
Not only that, you definitely have to clear off this aspirant very soon, or it'll be you'll be in big trouble.
And if War want to have a Keeper, he might be actually able to force Keeper being used on Flame Imp very often, actually. And that would be pretty good for Surrender. Well, that's not the case, but that would be pretty good for Surrender because he has a Void Tear next turn coming up.
I think if I had the Keeper here, I might still choose to go for the Silence because it's just one of the ways you lose this Druid is if you get a Void Tear. And even after that, everything is still contested. The Flame Imp is still contested. He's probably going to trade into your Nasus anyway, and I think you're okay with that.
So here, would you cycle and draw, or just Wrath, play for curve and save the Darnus? Oh, he goes for Algor play, which is more potent in my opinion. Even if a Darnus Aspirant dies, you can still go for Druid Claw. Now, this turn is a little awkward for Ostaka. I guess you can just go for a Druid Claw taunt. The only thing that he doesn't know is that Surrender has Implosion, which, as long as it doesn't deal 2 damage, he's very happy with the kill Druid Claw and still have a 3-1 left over.
Yeah. And even
And
if it
have a War
does,
Clear.
even if it does 2 damage, it's not the worst 2
Yeah, you can
damage
still kill
implosion. Exactly. It's a little worse, but like you're still okay with it. It's not like sometimes when
Oh, yeah.
if you get a 2 damage implosion, the game is just over right there and then.
Then I guess Ostaka on counter to that also has a swipe to deal with that, right?
Yep.
Because swipe will most likely War Clear here.
Yeah, so
Here
just
comes Implosion for
really back and forth.
3 damage.
Okay, not
All
bad.
right.
He'll take it.
Yeah, he'll just go for board trade.
Yeah. It also it doesn't matter too much how you trade because you'll be vulnerable to swipe anyway.
That's true, but you'd like to have extra 4 damage.
Yep.
Wow. So Ostaka does have a swipe to clean board up, but then he doesn't really have anything after. So he's just forced to hero power and pass, and next turn he has a great lore turn, so that's good. Whereas the Surrender doesn't really have anything now to just look at it. He has a Flaming Imp and Defender Vargas, which isn't too amazing. I guess he can go Lothab, which would be contested by Ancient Lore. So Ostaka, either way, I think is pretty happy. He's at 31 health compared to 20 on a Zoo. He just needs to survive, actually, against the Zoo until turn 9 or so, and then usually it's in Druid favor.
Yeah. Funny thing here is that the Warlock is at a pretty low health, so it's a pretty viable strategy for Ostaka to just kind of race the Zoo.
Oh, yeah. You can just pose the threat of having Force Nature Savage, or it's pretty close to turn 9 already.
And oh man, Sylvanas
and then Zoo will be the one who's trading.
Sylvanas and Innervator are pretty cool here. It's just more minions to contest the board with. And more tempo is exactly what you want against Zoo.
Oh boy. Actually, the Defender Vargas is great. The 6-6 dealing with the 5-5 still have well, it's contested by a swipe, but then the Ostaka doesn't have it, so I guess it will just go for, actually could go for a Surgery if he really wants to, and hope that he draws into it.
Oh, I think the boom.
No, I would
go for boom.
I would do it.
It's just way more, like, so much power on the board.
I would even innervate hero power and kill a 6-1 to not be tested by.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're okay with that. Typically, in this matchup, how it goes is that the Druid is at much lower health. The like the Zoo can just do way more damage, and then you're afraid of hero powering down a 6-1. Whereas in this scenario, you're still going to be at a really high life total afterwards.
Yeah, 26 health, about to be turn 9, and you're threatening lethal already against Zoo with a Force Nature Saboteur.
Yeah. A lot of this came down actually to the first turn where Surrender missed his 1-drop. Can you imagine how different the game would be if he got a Flame Imp just 1 turn earlier? He would be able to contest the Aspirant, and he'd prevent all this ramp from the.
Oh man. Yes, that is a strength point and a weakness of the running Void Terror deck instead.
All right, so Surrender really has to hope that the Boom RNG goes well for him.
Yep. I'll even just go... wow. This is a very awkward position.
Oh.
It's the Boom. Uh-oh. You know, there is a 1/20th chance now. or so. 1 out of 6. 1 out of 24 that actually Boom dies.
Yeah. And there's actually a chance that both Booms die. These are like the kind of scenarios where like it's really hard to calculate what the best play is, but there usually is like a mathematically best play. Like how you trade with the boom bots, for example.
You're dead to combo anyway, so I think he's just going for a face, not risking too much.
Yeah.
Besides the combo.
If he went like super YOLO swag, he would have traded into the boom bot and then hoped the boom bot would set off another boom bot. So I guess you still can't kill the Dr. Boom anyway.
No, you can't. But then you can leave it at 3-8 health, I suppose. Oh, that's interesting. What do you think about just using Force Nature here? seems potent. You
Yeah,
keep your 7/7 alive, and you can even kill majority of the minions out there.
yeah, I think it's a really great play. Besides that, you
Then he
can
goes towards Drake and swipe is a huge draw. Wow,
yeah. So
that is a board clear.
do you swipe or
That
force
is a
of nature
board clear
here?
again. Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
I will go for swipe on 7/4. There, the chance of you losing Doctor Boom is not as whoa.
Oh,
Whoa. Okay.
that, that, that
Four
was
damage
actually
at first.
that was actually
Whoa.
really close. Exactly.
Uh huh.
Yeah. The risk there, even though it was a small risk, is that if you swiped, it
Hmm.
was possible that your boom would die.
Yeah.
But
What are the
it's
actual chances? There are three targets,
the
and both bombs needs to hit, so 1/9, and then both of them needs to hit 3 and 4.
yeah.
No,
So
chance
it's
seems pretty slim.
yeah, it's basically 1/9 times uh times one in or times like 3 in 16.
28. It's around 170,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So Ostaka, he was feeling a little risky. He went for the 69 and 70th play. And even if like the RNG went totally bad for him, it wouldn't have been super terrible.
Yep. Well, the Osaka was a convincing win, rather. So it's a Henlock versus. It is definitely Henlock seeing Healbot, not the Zoo
Yeah. So surrender has
versus
to
the
be
Zoo deck.
surrender has to be feeling really bad right now because he really wanted the Zoo to face off against the Druid from Osaka. It was definitely by far the best matchup. Whereas now he has to go up against the Handlock and he has to go up against the Patron Warrior. Two matchups that are kind of iffy.
Yeah, it's well. Also, it's a. Yep, yep, you're right. You're correct here. It's iffy at best.
Yeah. Judging by stats from previous tournaments, we have because none of these decks have really changed in TGT. Handlock,
Hmm.
Zoo, and Patron Warrior have all pretty much stayed constant. But the Handlock versus Zoo matchup was pretty much 50-50. It was 51% favored towards Zoo, and the mid range
Hmm.
and the Zoo versus Patron was slightly favored towards Zoo, which was 52%, 70 or 37-34.
But then it's a slightly slower version of the Zoo with the Doctor Boom, and it might actually even have a Sylvanus. I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Well, I think the
Did we see that?
the list has pretty much been standardized these days. Zoo lists are pretty
Mhm.
much 3 cards off from each other, and pretty much all
Mhm.
of them run Melganis. They all run the Doctor Boom.
Yep. Oh, some Fear Protector. Yeah, that makes sense. What do you think between like what do you think? How would you justify Knife Juggler over Haunted Creeper against Handlock? Not that you knew it was Handlock.
I think you can. First of all, you can kind of assume it's handlock, and if you can assume it's handlock, I like the knife juggler better because it just deals more damage early on. Whereas if you're against Zoo, for example, you probably want the board control more, and the potential
Hmm.
for playing the knife juggler after you trade. Well, first of all, you trade your Haunted Creeper in, and then play knife juggler. That's more important. Whereas like the 2 extra damage from killing off the Haunted Creeper is probably not as important in this matchup.
You are correct. I believe I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because the likelihood of you having, I don't know, the likelihood of your opponent to drop is more like Ancient Watcher than Sunfear Protector. If it was going to be Sunfear Protector, you knew that the then Spider would be the Haunted Creeper would be in the pick. But yep.
Yeah.
But then again, you don't really want to deal face damage early on so too much because the Molten Giant. You want to just have a stable board and you just want to burst them down without your opponent letting your opponent have a combo, right?
Yeah, so Osaka's
Oh,
hand was
board clear.
not looking too great until he drew into Twilight Drake. Basically, he started off with Sun Fury Protector. He started off with
Hmm.
he doesn't have any Molten Giants yet, and he had a really clunky hand with BGH with Amalganis. But because of that Twilight Drake, it changes everything. And now his hand is actually
Oh yeah,
looking pretty good here.
decent.
It's yeah, especially because his BGH. It turned out that he might get some
Yeah,
use out of it with that Void Color draw, right?
very good use out of it. Camalgadis is the only thing that comes out of the void colors, so if he somehow triggers it, then pick him under boom.
Exactly.
And Surrender doesn't really have any board presence nor damage. I
Yeah.
might even consider just egging it. No. Sim is a little bit weird. Again, Abusive Surgeon. It's a very awkward position because you don't want to have too many things, too many weak things on board, just in case of the AoE. Okay, so he does end up just killing it and going for an egg.
Yeah. And also the egg prevents something like a Hellfire player from doing too much damage here.
Oh yeah, definitely. Not that it is a threatening damage. It's only 5 damage. At 22 health, you're welcome to just take that damage.
Oh,
Often.
wow. Another great top deck here from Ostaka. He saw that Surrender had such a hard time dealing with the first Twilight Drake that the second one is just so threatening at this point as well.
It's going to be way more annoying. Now, the Void Color and Flaming seems to be kind of obvious pick because otherwise all the other options are really vulnerable to AoE. Just Hellfire and just straight into 4/4 kills everything.
Yeah, but now you have a great Argus play here with the Ancient Watcher.
Yes, that is a great one. And Surrender just doesn't have enough things on board. Not enough damage. How to get through the 8 health plus 6 health, so 14 health, and you only have 6, 7, 8, 8. Like, it's not enough.
Yeah.
9 damage total.
There's also a slightly riskier play where you play the Ancient Watcher and Shadow Flame. From our perspective, we can see that that might not be the best because Milganis will come out. But from Ostaka's perspective, he thinks, what's the worst that can happen? Like, it's either Melganis or Doomguard. And if I get a Doomguard, it's like not that bad. And if I get Melganis, yes, it'll deal 9 damage to my face, but I can still just BGH it when it comes out on the next turn.
Yeah, also, you know that your opponent is very unlikely to have an owl since he would have used it on first hand. So I think the taunting Twilight Drake is just a much better play.
Yep.
Oh boy. Now you can actually just go for, run your Void Color into either one of the minion, and then Magnus comes out, and 3/2 becomes 5/2, and then you can defend the Argus and kind of deal with the board. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
It doesn't board clear. It doesn't.
No matter what Surrender does this turn, I think next turn will be something like a BGH into Shadow Flame, and that'll be just insane.
Not even needing Shadow Flame, just PKM Hunter and Dark Bomb clear whatever it's left over.
So many good options here.
So many good options. Well, so many terrible options for Surrender. So yep, just simply became Hunter to start off.
Yeah, you definitely BGH, but the real question here is how threatening is this board really?
I don't think it's too threatening, because you get to kill off the 2/2 with a 2/3 Argus after it became Huntering. So only thing that are left is a 2/2 and 2/3 against a 5/6 taunt. And you know that your opponent has burnt the power overwhelming already. Well, first one.
Yeah.
Second one will only deal 2 damage to the face. With the Molten Giant, you're very happy to take the 2 damage.
Yeah, I think also by saving the Shadow Flame, you kind of you basically save it for a rainy day. You're saying that in the later stages of the game, I always have this as like my emergency switch because you're always gonna have minions on board
with the Molten Giant, especially.
Yeah, with the Molten Giant, yeah, it can just clear everything.
Ooh. Doomguard is pretty decent draw, I'd say, with a Knife Juggler. Maybe if you get lucky, you can board clear.
Yeah.
With a knife hit.
Even if you don't get particularly lucky, it's still going to be a pretty good play.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that...
Well, it's just that if you don't board clear, you lose the majority of the board.
Yeah.
And you don't really have too much left over. It's a Doomguard is 5. Oh, it actually does not end up going over. He ends up using Defender Wargus. I guess Defender Wargus is a little too good of card to throw away as a zoo player. which might actually cost him, unfortunately. Well, I guess it would not have mattered too much. I don't know. Like he could have just kept the egg alive and just safe from taunt range,
Well, at
so that
this
he
point,
doesn't get AoE cleared.
mhm. At this point though, I feel like he's really feeling the
Oh,
burn. Just not enough. Like he needs. He feels like he needs to get as much as possible from every single card. And because of that, he feels that he needs to play this Doom Guard without any cards in his hand.
mm-hmm. Now Ostaka just can, yeah, even Life Tester start with, that's better. Molten Giant and just Dark Bomb board clear. And you know you're not gonna die. Not on 3 cards with the 6 mana.
Yeah.
Or
Molten,
8 cards with a 2 mana.
Molten Giant
It's
even
guaranteed.
Molten Giant is even like it contests even the Doom Guard. So no really
No,
fear
it
from that.
doesn't. Not to mention, next turn he has Zeraxus.
Exactly.
It's gonna be, well, not gonna, it's either one is just everything's just looking so good for Ostaka right now.
Emperor
Despite him being at 9 health.
Emperor Thorze not as bad as well.
Yeah, Imperator Risen, and you gotta taunt it up though.
Yeah.
That's the case, which he wouldn't mind, which he absolutely would not mind there. Taunting up. He's happy to taunt up against a 3/3. That's it on board.
Is there any
Surrender
combination of 2 cards that could just like
No,
kill Ostaka on the next
no,
turn?
not from 12 health. Unless Leary and Faces all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Well, you can't even
No,
play that.
then you don't have enough.
Yeah.
All right,
I
Implosion actually is a pretty good card to draw.
okay.
Now it's not so much.
Owl would have been useful a few turns ago, but sure.
Now you can, wow, actually, that, how do you clear this? Is that even possible to clear the Void Color Infernal Sunfury Protector? And Mal'Ganis is guaranteed to come out? Unless the Void Color comes out again. But even then, like the Void Color something. No, you don't want that. Or do you? Maybe you do. Maybe you do. Or just go for typical Imperator Risen and Infernal
what about
Sunfury. Still.
what about Void Color and Shadow Flame? And plus Infernal, obviously.
Whew. That sounds great as well. Like any option.
Exactly.
Ostaka is just picking which can to throw at the opponent's face. Here, have a candy. Here, have a candy. By the time...
Yeah. There's really no bad options here.
No.
Like, is there anything that Surrender could draw?
I do not believe so. Only thing he can draw is a Doom Guard. And if he uses a Doom Guard to get through the taunt, then how do you kill your opponent?
Yeah.
Who's gonna have another taunt? Who's gonna have another Mal'Ganis? Who's gonna have Imperator Risen? Who's gonna have board clear?
I think
just don't see a way.
I think so Surrender had 3 cards in his hand, and possibly the best 3 cards he could have had were a combination of Owl, Power Overwhelming, and Doom Guard. And there was no way for, like, even with those 3 ideal cards, it wouldn't be enough damage, basically.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So Surrender picked down to 0 on 3. Wow, 0 and 2. Oof.
Yeah. So again, it's like I said before, if you bring a deck that's not super conventional like this Zoo, then you might just queue it up over and over again to basically prove to the viewing audience that your decision to bring this deck was the correct choice.
Oh, he gets for a mirror matchup first.
Okay. Definitely liking his skill. Like he wants to show like who has the better skill in this matchup, but against Ostaka, that's kind of a hard sell. Ostaka in Blackrock Mountain was the best patron player, just statistically. It was pretty amazing there. I think in Archon League he was
on tournaments, right?
Yeah, in tournaments. In Archon League he was something like 9-0.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And well in tournaments overall he had a record of 22-9, which is a 71% win rate.
Nice.
And
then Surrender also is the one who been taking rank 1 Legend in Asian server over and over with the patron deck.
Yeah.
So
Surrender's
And
patron
that's while Zixo was there too. So
exactly, and you know what? Surrender's patron record isn't that bad himself. His record was 11-8 in Block Rock Mountain at
okay.
least. So definitely very respectable. Compared to like most pros, they actually have negative, slightly negative win records with patron.
Ooh, Surrender just needs Patron basically. Whereas Osaka already has the Death Bite and Grim Patron combo, so he just need Inner Rage instead.
Yeah. In this matchup, the first thing you have to consider is can I get patrons out on turn 5? And to do that, you need basically three things. You need the
Uh-huh.
patron, you need an inner rage, and you need a whirlwind effect, usually with death spite. Another
Yeah,
option is with a coin whirlwind, for
Coin
example.
Whirlwind. I don't
Uh,
know if that is something to consider not playing Uncle Out playing this early. I don't think you're expecting Control Warrior at this point. And even against Control Warrior, you don't want to
no,
play Uncle Out.
there's no way you expect control warrior from Ostaka.
But it makes sense for him to just Inner Rage one Acolyte here since you
Yeah,
don't I don't know if you want two Inner Rages. Does that I don't think it
I don't think
makes
it.
too much impact
Yeah,
compared to just one Inner Rage.
I've only seen one time where a
Hmm.
board of 4 patrons was cleared off by a patron player. And the only way that happened was because the other patron player had War Song, Armor Smith, and Inner Rage to clear off a 3-3. In addition to Death Spite, or rather, he had that plus Death Spite plus an Execute. And with that,
Hmm.
he was able to clear it
Ooh.
with 6 mana.
So Skaka has the whole thing, the whole
Okay.
combo. Deathbite, Patron, Inner Rage is all geared and ready to go. Whereas the Surrender still doesn't have it. And in this matchup, whoever does it first has huge advantage over whoever does it second.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Surrender is not going to be able to have that opportunity.
No.
So once Osaka's patrons get up on the board,
Hmm.
it'll be a question of A, can Surrender clear it? And 99% of the time, almost, I'm going to say no. And after that, it's going to be a question of, like, what do I do after that? You either can go with the plan where you build up your own patron board and force your
Hmm.
opponent to deal with your patrons. A Surrender doesn't have that option either because he doesn't have patrons or a patron in his
No.
hand. The other option is you try to kill your opponent off because he overcommits to patrons, and
Hmm.
you can kill him off with a frothing berserker
Oh
combo.
yeah, definitely. He does have yeah, so he decided to just go for a draw, and so he's giving up on going for a patron or top decking pet, hoping he gets lucky and go with a patron.
Yeah. So in this scenario, Masan, what do you clear here? Either you clear the armor smith or the gnomish inventor. What do you think is more
We'll
threatening over?
clear Nomish Inventor because the one can just die to things like Whirlwind.
Yeah.
And if a 2/3 runs into 3/2 and then perhaps he has a weapon, Osaka at the moment does not have another Whirlwind to trigger.
Yeah.
So you do want the 3/2 alive, I believe.
Yeah. I think
Yeah, you do want the
also,
3/2 alive here.
like usually you don't want to give your opponent armor, but
Hmm.
the thing is, it's much easier to clear off. Like the attack value of the minion left is really important because a gnomish inventor can clear off a 3-2 patron, whereas the
Hmm.
armor smith can only clear off the 5-1 patron. And it's much easier to do 1 damage with something like Inner Rage or Cruel Taskmaster
Oh,
than it
yeah.
is to deal 2 damage. You basically need a weapon hit or an execute.
Mhm. So here you would go for execute and run your armor smith into 5/1 and just go deathbind. Hopefully Alskaka does not have anything like Taskmaster, which he has.
Yeah.
Or Inner Rage.
This is again one of those rare circumstances where you can actually clear off all the patrons, and it's because there's this one armor smith left on the board.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to be one of those rare games where it's going to go into late game for patrons. And
Osaka only used a one patron. Surrender used. I guess the surrender didn't usually use anything either.
yeah, I really like these games because it's very rare that these games happen. Usually one player doesn't really have anything to deal with
Hmm.
the opposing patron board, and it's just kind of like a slow winding death from there on out. This game, though, it's going to be a lot different. We're going to see um, quite a skill-based matchup, and I've even seen games in this matchup where it goes pretty much to fatigue, and one player runs out of resources.
Who do you say is favorite right now?
I would. I'd probably lean towards Ostaka simply
Hmm.
because he has more potential for card draw.
Oh yeah.
Then
He
again,
has things to play, whereas the surrender doesn't really have anything to play. He's forced to
Mhm,
execute on a lot of pain,
mhm.
and likely will war clear here.
I don't think you necessarily need
Ooh,
to
yeah, I
fully
guess
war
you don't
clear.
need to. You can wait for patron,
Yeah.
but then you also have two Warwinds just sitting on your hand.
Hmm.
His turn seems way more awkward than Oskaka's.
It probably won't come to this, but again, there are circumstances where um, Ostaka might be unfavored because
Hmm.
he's already used one patron and he has fewer of those patron resources in the deck. But that's kind of a hard sell.
Yeah, yeah, that's hard to sell. Your site. Yeah, he's gonna be able to use the Nomish Inventor to draw more. Whereas Surrender is just burning on cards right now. He has a double Whirlwind, the Warsong Commander, almost I mean, none of them actually helps on drawing anything. So unless it draws into a draw card or some sort of combo piece, I don't know what Surrender. He might be able to. He might just have to just go for armor up and just pass a turn on turn 7, which should be terrible.
Yeah, exactly. What's the best draw for surrender? I guess an acolyte of pain here.
I want to say, how do you clear Patron as Oskaka if Surrender top decks
Oh, that's a good point as well.
Patron? He has a triple Whirlwind effects. He can fill up the entire board. I would say Patron is the best option right now. But
Yeah.
then again, if that's cleared, I don't know. Unless Oskaka runs the Brawl, that will not be possible to be cleared off.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Ostaka run brawl in his decks.
Mhm.
And just overall, it's a pretty rare instance.
But then again, Oskaka does have a Frothing Berserker or some Commander
Ooh,
and a Ghoul.
Battle Rage is not bad either. So
Would you
Ostaka,
just cycle it, or would you just use it along with the Armor Smith, play it and attack into 2/4 and use a Battle Rage to draw 2 cards, whereas drawing 1 card might not do too much.
you could potentially even just almost cycle all these cards.
Yep.
Ostaka traded in his Cruel Taskmaster instead of using the Fire War Axe last turn because he's been keeping track of Surrender's coin and he realizes there is a potential for that, um, the Warsaw and Patron play on this turn.
All right. So Battle Rage comes down, draws 2 cards, another Death Fight, and Slam.
Slam is really good here. It's just
Slam
additional
is
card
awesome.
draw.
Mhm.
Oh, he's gonna even slam his own.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You really need to cycle through and get cards. You just don't have anything otherwise. You have none of the piece combos that you can play. Oskaka has a 3. Well, I guess if you consider Warsong, that is one. But your opponent is getting farther and farther away.
Yeah. In this scenario, also you have to consider how many cycle cards you put in your deck. A lot of these new patron lists they have double shield block, which in surrender situation, for example, it'd really help him just for that extra cycle effect. Whereas others, you might have something like a Dread Corsair, and that's going to hurt you in the matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty slow game
Yeah,
from
very
in patron
slow.
versus patron.
Neither player doesn't really have a decent hand that they want to play.
Oh, here's
Oh,
the patron.
finally, patron. Now you kind of have to be careful though. Like if you fully commit and just expand on all the patrons, then Frothing Berserker can outright kill you as well.
So you
So getting to
can
the mana curve, turn 10 is around the turn you want to stop avoiding that.
Yeah. And we do see indeed that Ostaka has that combo of Warsong Commander,
Oh yeah.
Unstable Ghoul,
Oh
Whirlwind,
yeah.
and Frothing Berserker.
So if a surrender goes on full board, that would be 7, 8, 8, 9 damage per Warwind. So with a Death Fight and Warwind and Unstable Ghoul, that actually is a very close to lethal.
Yeah. Surrender has to. He's deciding whether he wants to attack here because if he attacks here and Ostaka spawns a board full of patrons, then he's going to be in trouble because he actually wouldn't want the whirlwind effect in that case. But
No.
given that Ostaka has already played patrons, I'm not sure like if that's too much of a concern.
He does this end up. Yeah, he just passed a turn actually. Now on Ostaka's end, he doesn't really have anything to play either besides just weapon and perhaps armorsmith to just bait out the charge. But then I don't know. His end is awkward as well. So armor weapon pass, just like surrender, equip up the weapon.
Yeah, not really much action here,
Yeah,
and
might as well to play.
it seems to be that it's like pretty much the game is in Surrender's court at the moment.
The
So we,
patron draw.
yeah,
Oof.
we said Ostaka pretty much had the lead before, but it's just this one
it's
draw
just
changed everything.
Yeah, one draw changed everything. Now, do you agree with that death bite equipment after attacking instead of just using it beforehand?
Oh man, another armor upturn.
Oof. Neither one of them wants to attack their first charge.
Yeah, they realize if patrons come down, it's almost just game over if you use that first charge. I think at this point though, the armor is actually really relevant, and it's going to be really relevant that Ostaka is running a shield block because it's possible that extra armor will be the difference between winning and losing.
Extra armor, and you also mentioned how a lot of patron warriors run shield slams. And with that amount of armor, you really don't want to just go for things like Ghoul and Patron.
I think both players kind of get a sense of what's in each other's hands right now because there are only a few cards that you wouldn't want to play here. Like it's your whirlwinds, it's your frothings,
Battle Rage, Execute, frothings, Wars and Commanders, Ghouls, armor smiths, pretty much everything. Yeah, with the exception of Patron, I guess he could have played Patron and just expand on board.
Yeah, and you do have to consider that everything that most of the minions that you play on board will feed an opponent's Patron, so you don't want to play that either.
Battle Rage. Now you could draw several cards here if you really, really want to.
Yeah,
I just don't know if that's what. What did you say here?
I think Battle Rage right now in the situation, it's more of a refill card. And you can save it pretty much for a rainy day. Like after you expect sometime to get a board full of patrons, and after that you need something to refill your hand because you probably
used all your hand.
Exactly, used all your resources at that point.
I'm more surprised that Ostaka is not still using first charge.
Yeah.
Because once the surrender, let's say surrender just expands on board right now, and Ostaka don't really have lethal, not with the one frothing berserker. He needs the 3 whirlwind effects to kill your opponent.
Yeah, it seems like both these players are almost in equivalent situations, right? But one player has decided to save his Death Spite after, or rather, one player has decided to save his Death Spite, and the other player has decided to use one charge of the Death Spite after he saved it for a turn.
Yeah. Now, knowing that Ostaka does not have extra Death Bite Whirlwind effect, so Surrender knows that Ostaka likely has a maximum of 2 Whirlwind effect. Likely. Then he should know that he's unlikely to die in 1 turn. So can Surrender kill Ostaka in 2 turns is something Surrender has to consider.
In 2 turns with what kind of combo?
With Warsun Commander, Green Patreon, any combination of two turn combination. Can Ostaka kill Surrender? Well, the other one. So can Surrender kill Ostaka in 2 turns before Ostaka kills Surrender? Basically, before Frothing Berserker comes.
Yeah.
But then again, I guess a double Frothing Berserker with a Warsun Commander and Warwind, that still wouldn't be enough. No, because that's only 1 Warwind effect. Even with an range, that would not be enough. So what's stopping Surrender from expanding board right now? when Ostaka does not. Oh, now we go. Okay, Surrender cannot expand the board anymore.
Yeah.
Not
This is
anymore.
this is the point where we get into a lot of mind games.
Mhm.
Because Ostaka did that attack, he might be signaling to Surrender that, hey, I drew a piece of the combo that I really need, and now I can afford to, like if you develop your board now, I can just kill you right here and then.
Oh yeah, Ostaka has a lot of health actually. So it's 42 health you need. The Surrender does not have what it takes to kill Ostaka. Almost regard. Wait, actually, if Ostaka expand on board, can Surrender kill Ostaka from 42? He has a double Frothing Berserker with a Warsome Commander. That means he can Warwind 3 times total. So with 5, 10, 30, 40. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. Surrender now actually has the ability to kill Ostaka in one turn as well. If Ostaka expands on board.
Oh, is this gonna be the turn?
Oof. Oof.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure if this is lethal for Ostaka, because there's only one Frothing Berserker instead of two. You usually need two.
hmm But Surrender doesn't know that. He's just worried about him Ostaka having full combo because he already has his combo as well.
I think
Just that Ostaka hasn't played any card forever. That Surrender is expecting Ostaka had to have something near full combo.
I think because he's running the double shield block and he's building up so much life, he's at a pretty big advantage in this game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
At any point where Surrender goes off with a board full of patrons, and he draws into his second Frothing Berserker, then the game is just over. Oh,
Ooh.
Emperor.
Wow, that is a great card right now.
The question is, are you afraid to like develop 2 minions on your board? And
No, not right now. Not with the Armor Smith, because Armor Smith by itself cancels out at least 4 damage.
Yeah, and minimum
of 4 damage.
Not only that, but the Armor Smith is at 3
One
attack.
turn too late. If Surrender can just play Emperor Terrorson and survive this turn, Surrender has an insane amount of damage here. Then again, how much damage does Kaka have here? He has 4.
The problem is Ostaka, he doesn't have a second Frothing and he doesn't have a patron either, so he actually can't deal that much damage.
Well, with the 3 Whirlwind effects, if Surrender, oh yeah. If not, unless the Surrender expands on board, which is not going to.
Oh wow!
Pass? Whoa! One Frothing Berserker or Patron could change everything, and it's thrown.
There it is.
There it is. It is the winner chicken dinner. That is the game.
Well played, guys. This
Well
is
played.
Pretty interesting patron mirror, I guess. We're gonna see the full extent of what patron can do here.
The triple Whirlwind effect on 8 minions with a double Frothing Berserker.
I think Ostaka right here. You go for a record to see how much damage he can do in one turn.
That is 48 plus 4, 52 plus 4.
Yeah, I'm really glad that
55 damage, I think, is the maximum.
I'm really glad we get to see Surrender's reaction here. He's like, oh, man, what the heck is this?
54 damage in on a single turn.
It's probably going to be even more. I mean, just from the Frothing Berserker, it's around 54. But we're going to see from...
It is a ghoul dice, and the worst one also dies.
Oh, Ostaka...
Yeah, you're right.
Ostaka even attacks with the Armor Smith and the War Song.
Wow.
Wow, Ostaka playing Patron Warrior perfectly here. Getting the maximum... Yeah, the maximum damage possible.
Yes. Well, wait, did the Warsong Commander have...
Yeah, the Warsong Commander had charge as well.
Had one health or 2 health?
It had 1 health. It had 1 health. Okay. But by trading, he gained even more damage. So that's
okay, he had a 2 health.